Unbelievable. Kamala Harris is actually flatlining. It's amazing to me that you can go through all the hoopla of that giant convention and then wind up with poll numbers like this. She's not actually doing well at all. We're going to go through all of these numbers. Meanwhile, the RNC is on defense and offense right now, going after some key Democrat-controlled cities, including Detroit, to make sure that you do actually have monitors there. On the other side, imagine that, some conservative monitors there. Harris caught flip-flopping away. I mean, she's just a flip-flopper here on this issue that she once called a medieval vanity project of Donald Trump's. We're going to get into all of that. And I'll tell you, you know what? The knives are out because of RFK Jr.'s support of Donald Trump. They're going after his wife over in Hollywood, his own sister coming out against him on none other than the Joy Reid Show. We're going to get to all of it. Thank you for being here. It is wonderful, wonderful to see you all again in this live program, the Trish Regan Show, where I am every day live. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. Let's get to the news. Major news coming today. Kamala Harris is flatlining. I mean, you look at these polls, and I don't know how else you could characterize this. You know, normally, as a political candidate, when you go into something like a convention, typically, you kind of get some momentum, things start going well, and then, you know, you should be off to the races. In a normal scenario, if you were actually as talented as the media wants you to believe that Kamala Harris may be. She's not. She's actually not at all. And therein lies the problem, of course.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been.
And hence we have none other than a total flop. Take a look at these numbers here. Kamala Harris getting no boost from the DNC, the Democrat National Convention. This is the headline in the Daily Mail. Let me read you the line that's kind of key here. Kamala Harris leads Donald Trump by 4 points, according to a new Morning Consult poll, 48 to 44%. But that's actually the exact same margin as before Harris gave her primetime address at the DNC last week. Usually, they write presidential nominees get a boost from their convention speech, but none happening here. And this is despite all the spin. I mean, there's a ton of spin. Take a look at this one. Kamala Harris's honeymoon continues, but no DNC bump. Well, then how is the honeymoon exactly continuing? Okay, because one poll happens to have her nationally ahead by a few points. Guys, I'd look at the polls. I look at the polls a little bit harder because here's another poll that doesn't have her ahead at all. This is Rasmussen. And guess what? You got a different spread there. 45 Harris, 49 Trump. You've got a Fox News poll that just came out about 10 days ago. And what do you see there? Harris 49, Trump 50. Meanwhile, you got to start taking a look at all the individual polls in all the various states, right? I mean, I've showed you a couple of from Pennsylvania in which Donald Trump is seeing some success. And then there's this one that just came out of Arizona. Take a look, guys. Okay, this is Trump leading in Arizona. This is something called the Noble Predictive Insights poll. Just came out today. 47% goes to Trump, 44% to Harris. And yet that's not what even the poll headline reads. I mean, this cracks me up. So they're like really embarrassed. They're like, oh my gosh, Trump's ahead. Oh no, how could it be? And so take a look at how they characterize it there at Noble Predictive Insights. Harris shakes up key demographics in 2024 presidential race. New poll shows tight race in Arizona as both Trump and Harris appeal to different voter bases. Okay, you get your new poll, but Donald Trump's still ahead. They just need to spin it. I mean, if you look at the numbers, these are the numbers. So Trump's winning. But that's never how they're going to present it. It's really actually pretty uncanny. It's pretty amazing. Here's the New York Times Siena poll with all of their numbers. And this is from a while back, but they had Harris like way out in front in Arizona. I don't think that's going to hold. Certainly not by the local poll that we looked at today. North Carolina, they're trying to suggest that she's winning there as well, and that you've got some dicey things going on there in Nevada and Georgia. I'll tell you guys, I don't know. I'm just tired of it. So it's one of the reasons why I like to go back to Polymarket, which is a betting market where people are actually putting money on the line because, you know, the polls, they're influenced by this, that, and the other. Investors, they're just putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak, right? They are trying to bet and win on who's actually going to be the president. So what do you see here? It's tight. Yes, I'll give you that. It's really tight. But you know what? It's not like Kamala Harris has this thing locked up. It's not like it's a slam dunk. And yet, when you read all the headlines coming out of the media, I'm getting a little annoyed. It's like it's fait accompli. And they're doing that deliberately because they want to demoralize anybody who's on the right. They want to make sure that you're embarrassed and that you just go and hide in your corner and don't go to vote. Well, that's the opposite of what you should do. You know, you vote all day long. Thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share. Make sure you do all those things. It's really, really important right now, especially given all that's going on. We're going to get into some of the meta news momentarily. Stunning island of Ireland. Just incredible. You know, when I was a little kid and we'd visit here, my mom would say, if you're lucky enough, you might actually get a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, because that's where the leprechauns leave it. So we looked, we didn't find any, but I consider it probably having been good advice, because as I got older, I learned that gold is pretty valuable. It's valuable in terms of diversification. I encourage you to take a look at it, and when you do, call our friends, our wonderful sponsors over at American Hartford Gold. You can go to trishlovesgold.com, Trish Loves Gold, and wow, it's windy here. You can text 65532, my name, Trish, to 65532 for your chance to get up to $15,000 in free silver, ladies and gentlemen. Just a terrific offer. Terrific offer indeed. Our thanks to American Hartford Gold. Don't forget to text my name over there. You know, it's just amazing when you look at the inflation stuff. We'll get to that in a little bit. Of course, gold's been reaching new highs. I think it's an important part of a diversified portfolio. But first, wow, the RNC is totally going on offense. I told you Lara would be a good addition to the show, right? So to speak. Look, so she's running things over at the RNC. She's the co-head of the RNC right now. And she's nobody's fool. I mean, the girl, I know her. She's a really, really nice person. She's kind of like a superhero because she's got kids and she's a wife and she's running the RNC and she's on TV. It seems like 24 hours a day. And she has a podcast. So all of these great things. Lara's really, really busy, but she's also finding time to make sure that they dot the I's and they cross the T's, and they go in there and they say, hey, wait a second, this isn't fair, right? That's what we saw coming out of, for example, Georgia, where they somehow miscounted some 3,000 plus votes. It's something that she's alerting people to in the city of Detroit over there in Michigan, because they don't have enough people sort of running the polls, regulating the polls, watching over the polls, and they're now filing a lawsuit as a result. I want you to hear this in her words. You're going to have to tune up the volume, I think, a little bit as we listen here to Lara Trump focusing in, zeroing in on Michigan, important state.
Look at a state like Michigan, a very important state, a state Donald Trump, of course, won in 2016. We are fighting tooth and nail to make sure Donald Trump wins in Michigan, and we believe if it's a free, fair, and transparent election, he will. I'll give you an example of the way the Democrats like to operate to try and sway an election. We had 700 trained poll workers from the Republican side apply in Wayne County to be poll workers. Do you know how many of those they actually took? 50. Guess how many Democrat poll workers they took? 2,300. So now we are filing a lawsuit in Detroit to make sure that we have parity between Republicans and Democrats. So whether
important. I'm really glad to see that. I told you she would do that kind of thing, right? I mean, you've got to actually do all the stuff that should have been done, frankly, for a whole lot of years. And no offense against Rona, but okay, a lot of stuff that should have happened didn't happen during that era. And I think that this is the opportunity right now to go out there and actually make sure that everything is as fair as possibly can be. And you know what? Everybody should want that. I mean, I don't care what side of the aisle you are on. The one thing that you need to be able to ensure, right, is that election integrity. So it's critical. I'm happy to see her doing this, and I hope that things get done in time, because let's face it, guys, we're sort of running out, right? We're coming up on the final stretch, shall we say. RFK Jr. giving a whole bunch of energy to the campaign. We saw that this week. Or last week, I should say. This week, we saw Tulsi Gabbard adding some more energy to the campaign. Of course, RFK saying that, you know, you were going to see more and more people coming out for Donald Trump that are historically Democrats.
Campaigning actively, I think President Trump is going to make a series of announcements about other Democrats who are joining his campaign. And I want to make America healthy again, and so does President Trump. So those are objectives.
Big deal. So he's got a platform. He wants to make America healthy again. Clearly, this is going to ruffle some feathers. Definitely ruffle some feathers, as he pointed out there in that interview with Shannon Bream on Fox. But hey, maybe it's time to ruffle some feathers. Maybe. I'm just saying, we've had our feathers ruffled enough. Maybe that's what it's going to take. RFK Jr. actually sitting down with Tucker Carlson, my former colleague over at Fox, and the two of them talked about whether or not a CIA position, head of the CIA, might be in the cards. He had a very, very good response to this. Tucker also asked him about whether or not he blamed the agency for his uncle's death. Again, a very, very sort of nuanced response, very diplomatic response, where he's basically like, yep, but, I'm not going to shout it from the rafters. Let's see what you think. You can read between the lines here, but this is Tucker sitting down there with RFK Jr. Take a listen.
Right.
Yeah, right? You got to ask yourself why. Why was that so important? Unless they're just, so concerned about any inkling, any hint of negativity around our government and, what they should or shouldn't have done. Like, let me give them the benefit of the doubt. I know that not many people are willing to, but let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. We ought to have some of these questions answered. So if they're completely innocent, again, answer the questions. It's kind of like we're dealing with the whole Butler County, Pennsylvania thing. And we still have a lot of questions that haven't been answered. Why is it that the Secret Service wasn't communicating with the local police on their walkie-talkies? There's, the instruments that they have to actually speak to one another. Why is it that they waited before actually taking the guy out? What exactly went down there? Why is it that they didn't have enough personnel? There are a lot of questions. And so far, the answers are not very good. Can you imagine if something had happened to Donald Trump? Can you imagine? I mean, that's pretty terrifying stuff, because it would have sent the country into an enormously difficult time. Thank goodness, right? Thank goodness. Wow, it's hard to believe that was just a few weeks ago. That's how quick this political news cycle is. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, really, really fascinating interview between Tucker there and RFK Jr. that's worth a listen. Make sure you subscribe to this program. Meanwhile, share, like, comment. We are live right now, so careful what you put in there. Also, another quick shout out before we get to what one Democrat is admitting on Kamala Harris. I do want to just once again give a shout out to our friends over at American Heart for Gold, because they have a special offer right now. I'm proud to be linked up with these guys because it's up to $15,000 in free silver. I was just telling you, silver across 30 just this week. We've got gold at roughly $2,500. You can text Trish, my name, TRISH, to 65532, or call them at 1-844-495-1115 for your chance to get up to $15,000 in free silver. Hey, when you invest with them, this is one of the perks. So take a look at that. Trish, my name, TRISH, to 65532. I do think that gold is an important part of something right now, right? So take a look at those stats right there on the screen. Gasoline up 51%, electricity up 32%, airfares up 23%. You know the drill on groceries. You know the drill on all of this. And so this is why, in my estimation, Kamala Harris is going to have such a darn big problem. Such a problem. She's got to answer these questions. Why is it that anybody would give you another 4 years after the miserable 4 we've just had? Well, a CNN panel had a total meltdown as this issue came up. The fact that Kamala Harris has not actually agreed to do any kind of interview with anyone. No sit-down interview. Now she's starting to drag her heels on the debate, coming out with a whole new set of rules. You see, she wants to sit instead of stand. I'll tell you what that's about. It's because she's so short and petite compared to Donald Trump. She does not want to look weak in any way, short, petite, any of that. The other thing she wants to make sure is that she can have all her notes in front of her, because you see, this is a woman who reads from a prompter and reads from her note cards and doesn't actually have much in the way of original thoughts. And then the third thing was she does want to make sure that the microphones are open all the time. That way he can catch her when she's in the middle of a word salad. Maybe relieve her a little bit. Like Joe Biden sure could have used, right? Because he couldn't make it 2 whole minutes. Had the microphones been open and Trump had jumped in. Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, I don't know if she's going to get that. But boy, CNN had a meltdown with this one lady, some surrogate trying to defend her at all costs. Take a listen.
Called off 1/3 of this campaign, and members of the news media have let her. She's not answering questions about. We know her position. She's against fracking. She's against private health insurance. She's against gasoline cars. That's what she told us when she ran for president last time. She doesn't want to talk about those positions. That's why she's stalling it.
And she should do an interview. I'm just politically saying, Brad, and you have to acknowledge that it hasn't been that bad to this point.
She's going to show up.
It is coming.
She'll show up at NPR somewhere like that, but she's not going to take tough questions.
She's going to show up on a network, and she's going to have a sit-down conversation. She has already said, her campaign has already said that that's going to happen. If you're waiting for the date, everybody else is waiting for the date.
It's a month.
She's actually on the ground. She's doing bus tours across the state of Georgia. She is talking to the voters.
She's the last one in the room.
Let's hear it. Oh, wow. So she's so not talking to the voters. She's so not doing any of that. You know what she's doing? She's taping commercials. Do you see that spiffy little one I put on my shorts feed the other day? It's like her looking for Doritos. I mean, she's a full-on Doritos ad. I'm like, wait a second, is it the Super Bowl? No, it's a presidential campaign. And it was so bad they had to do it twice. So she's busy shooting these little social media GIFs and stuff like that so that they can try and get the word out to a younger population that really doesn't like Kamala Harris very much. So they got a lot of work to do. Because I just say this once again. As we started this show, the polls are lousy. Normally you would get a bump after something like the DNC convention. But hey, Beyonce didn't show up. Maybe that's why. Or maybe it's just that people have a very good memory and they're living through the hell that is this graphic above my left shoulder right now. Inflation. Inflation is out of control. And it's continuing to grow. It's one of the reasons why I insisted when I started 76 Research, I said to Rob, my colleague there at 76, I said, we need to have, I'm going to put the URL up so you can see it, guys. We need to have, absolutely must have, under all circumstances, no circumstances can we not, an inflation protected portfolio. I wanted to make sure that no matter what, you would be protected from inflation. Gold's one of the things I talk about, but there's some other ways as well. Go check it out, 76research.com. And guess what? We have code word dollar, DOLLAR, that you can use to get the 76 report for free. Big article in today's 76 report that Rob and I put out this morning, all about what RFK Jr. means for markets, means for the economy, means for inflation, and means for the middle class, which then transfers back to consumer spending, makes up nearly 2/3 of consumer spending, GDP rather. So what all of that means really for markets, etc. So a very lengthy, really thoughtful piece that I would encourage you guys to get. You can do it for just $1. Use code word dollar. I'm putting it in the show notes. Go to 76research.com or 76report.com for your opportunity to get all of that today. Listen, Kamala's not going to take care of you. You make sure that you look out for numero uno. That's what this is all about. I want to go over to Hollywood, actually going really heavily against Cheryl Hines. This would be the wife of RFK Jr. So they have no use for her, you see now. No use for her at all because, she's one of them. She's one of the Trumpers. She's actually married to a guy who's doing the unthinkable. So there's this guy that started attacking her named Bradley Whitford. This is interesting. Variety had a big story on it. I've never heard of this guy. Have you guys heard of Bradley Whitford? I've never, ever, ever, ever heard of him. So that was kind of interesting. In fact, I had to say to one of my producers, who actually is a little more familiar with pop culture than I am, which is not hard to do. Hey, quiz me on opera any day of the week, but pop culture, forget it. Anyway, Bradley Whitford, he's slamming Cheryl Hines for not speaking out after her, quote, lunatic husband, RFK Jr., endorsed Trump for president. Quote, way to stay silent. So he had this big, long tweet, and he's being super nasty and trying to shame her, this, that, and the other. So again, you're asking, who the heck is Bradley Whitford? Let me get to that in a second. He's kind of irrelevant, but nonetheless, you should know. Here he is, okay? This is Bradley Whitford. So apparently, he is best known for his portrayal of the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Josh Lyman, in the NBC television political drama, The West Wing, for which he was nominated, I'm assuming, for an Emmy Award. Anyway, so he's the Chief of Staff on a television show, which apparently in his little mind qualifies him to go bonkers on a woman who's married to a guy who's running for president. Now listen, you are absolutely in this country, thanks to our First Amendment, welcome to go bonkers on anyone. The problem here is he's not the only one, right? They're piling on her. And it's going to be a shutdown, if you would, of her career. I mean, she's probably already experienced it. And so then you've got other family members of RFK Jr., forgive me, that are also, trying to deal with this onslaught, if you would, and they're furious, and they're very passionate about their fury, so much so that they took the time to go on that really horrible show anchored by this really conspiratorial woman there on MSNBC. This is Kerry Kennedy. She's the sister of RFK Jr. I mean, heck, who needs enemies when you got family like this? Take a listen.
It sounds to me like your cousin Jack Schlossberg thinks this has always been a grift and that the reason he ran for president in the first place was to serve Donald Trump. Do you think that's true?
Well, I think what's important is where is Bob and where is Donald Trump and who are people going to vote for in this election? I think if my dad were alive today, he would detest almost everything about Donald Trump. His lying, his selfishness, his racism, his cynicism, hatred, fascist sympathies, deliberate misinformation about vaccines, criminal felony convictions, rape of E. Jean Carroll, his contempt for the poor and suffering, for ethics, for democracy and healing, and his cruel sneering at human rights for suffering people in America and around the world, which are the causes that Daddy loved so passionately and were so important to him. And I, personally, I completely disavow and separate and disassociate myself from my brother, Bobby Kennedy, and his flagrant and inexplicable effort to desecrate and trample and set fire to Daddy's memory. I love Bobby, and I have tremendous respect for a lot of the work that he's done in the past. But on this, he's wrong. And on this, it's really important for people to understand that the Kennedy family endorses Harris. And we do so because that's who represents our values and our vision and that of Robert Kennedy and John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, and that's who's going to sign our next paycheck, right? We're part of the system, and that's all there is to it. And we're not going to respect you for having a difference of opinion. No, clearly she doesn't respect him. And wow, this lady likes adjectives, does she not? I mean, how many did we have to hear there? Wow, 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 wow. Anyway, so that's his sister. So his wife is getting hit by other actors in Hollywood. The sister's going on to MSNBC because she's taken out all her rage and frustration about, him using the family name. How dare he to support somebody that she so clearly despises. But look, it goes back to something I'm going to show you again, right? It goes back to policies. It goes back to inflation. It goes back to the border. It goes back to security. These are the things that matter. It's one of the reasons why I encourage you to go take a look at Project 25. This is something that's sponsored by the Heritage Foundation. It's a presidential transition project. It's called Project 2025, and they're really out in the open on it. In fact, I've had some of their experts on. We've talked about different policies that they are pushing. They are really, really, really very forthcoming. And so forthcoming, despite what the left says about this being some kind of secret backroom thing, it's all right there at 25truth.com. I think you should go and check it out because this is important. There's 4 main pillars there. You're talking about American independence for energy, any which way you can get it. You know what? We want it. We want it. We want to be able to secure our own energy future. We were there. Somehow, something got lost on the way to the forum vis-a-vis this administration. And so what did that lead to? Inflation, pain, etc. And so you can fix those things with the right kinds of policies. Other issues, very, very front and center, include things like this deep state, right? You can't be going after people just because they don't serve your political purpose, your political agenda, and many more. So go take a look at this. This is the truth. This is the truth about Project 2025. Go get it yourself, www.25truth.com. Again, as we think about what's going on, I just wanted to throw code word dollar up there for 76 research, guys. Let me see. Can you see code word dollar? That's not going to help you without the URL. So make sure you go and check out the URL. Let me see if I can put it up, in which case we will have it right there for you. There you go. Okay. So this is 76 research, my financial research newsletter. I started, if nothing else, you know what? Just go and get the free stuff. Just go get the free stuff because it's important, or sign up for the good stuff, in which case it's only $1. So a special promo that we're running really for the back to school effort. I'll tell you, Kamala's all talk. And her people, they even know this. They know it so much that it came up. Jason Furman, who used to run the Economic Council there with, I believe it was Barack Obama, he went on to CNBC and he met his match because he went on with Joe Kernan, who's great. Actually, if you watch Squawk Box at all in the morning, you know that, there's one conservative in the mix there, a fiscal conservative, Joe, who just totally railroaded Elizabeth Warren the other day. So now, he's probably getting nervous. It's like, Democrats don't want to come on my show. So he's trying to be nice. He offers him sort of an out and says, you must be getting sick of getting abused for all this stupid, dumb policy. And Furman admits something. He admits basically that it's all a big joke. It's all just political. Take a look at this clip.
And you're probably so tired of trying to defend, I don't know, maybe you like the capital gains, the highest ever at 45% or unrealized capital gain, but you must have things. I mean, tell Kevin what is the most heinous suggestions you've heard from the other side for their economic, because you got to be at this point getting a little defensive. To have to answer, because with so much bad policy coming from the left, you got to be defensive. So give it right back to Kevin Hassett.
I don't think it's so much bad policy from the left. I'm not going to agree with every details, but broad strokes, I agree. But look, the problem with the tariffs is you can do this unilaterally. The president has the authority to raise tariffs to 10%. I haven't heard him say it's reciprocal. I've heard him say 10%, possibly 20%. On every single country in the world.
It's in the platform, Jason. It's in the platform.
Something you don't actually need. And there's a big difference. I mean, the price gouging you were talking about before, you need 60 votes in the Senate. So might be a fun thing to talk about on the campaign. It's just not going to happen. These tariffs are going to happen. When it comes to the Fed, I think that's an even bigger risk. But he probably won't be able to do what he wants to the Fed.
Did you hear that? So it's probably not going to happen. So all her talk about price gouging, which she calls something else, it's all just designed to be effective from a political standpoint. I mean, that's the econ guy, right? Saying it right there. So think about that. So he's either trying to, calm investors down that are watching that network, that are really kind of worried and saying, wait a second, or calm the grocery store CEOs down, or he actually believes it's a bunch of frivolous nonsense and it's just her saying what she needs to say to get elected. I tend to agree with him on that. I think Kamala Harris is a political animal and a political animal only, and she's doing exactly what she thinks is going to be what is her ticket to getting elected. I mean, think about just what's happened on the border, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, think about what happened here. I mean, you've got, for example, this big article, let me see if I have it for you, in Axios recently, and they're basically just laying it all out there, that Kamala Harris is willing to now put up a border. I mean, this is something else. Here we go. Take a look. This is the piece. This is in Axios today. And I quote, if she's elected, President Kamala Harris is pledging to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on the wall along the southern border, a project she once opposed and called un-American during the Trump administration. Oh, I remember that, right? Remember how she was just totally all over Donald Trump? I mean, how un-American and awful and medieval, I think was one of the quotes, could you possibly be? Here she is, sounding, well, not so eloquent as usual.
It's the president's vanity project.
You know, I mean, listen, if we deconstruct, get the pun, deconstruct wall. If we deconstruct the issue, you know, let's be clear. And again, let's just point to the facts and the evidence and the data. And the fact is that we are not facing a crisis. The crisis we're facing is a crisis of leadership. That's the crisis. That's the crisis. And a wall won't cure that. And a wall won't cure that.
Okay, so then why does she want a wall? Also here.
And folks, on the subject of transnational gangs, let's be perfectly clear. The president's medieval vanity project is not going to stop them.
Oh, and then, of course, here's what she said just the other day at the DNC, kind of singing a different tune.
After decades in law enforcement,
She's got some better lighting,
I know
too.
The importance of safety and security, especially at our border. Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it. But Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security, and here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law. I know.
Okay, so the thing is that bill, which was negotiated by James Langford out of Oklahoma and Senator Chris Murphy out of Connecticut, would actually require hundreds of millions of dollars in unspent funds to be used to continue building a wall along our southern border. So Langford spoke with Axios and says it requires the Trump border wall. It is in the bill itself that it sets the standards that we were setting during the Trump administration. Here's where it will be built. Here's how it will be built in terms of the height, the type, everything during the Trump construction, everything. So let's just be clear. You heard her at the DNC. She's all for it now. And yet, just a short time ago, she wasn't. So which is it, Kamala Harris? Which is it? This woman is a political animal and a political animal only. And it's sort of frightening, given where we are in this world right now. A reminder to subscribe, to like, to share, because I'm going to get to this next story. And this is an important one. Very important. Meta, otherwise known as Facebook, just came out with a big mea culpa. So they sent this big letter out. They sent it to Jim Jordan. And they explained what really went down during 2020 and how they were pressured by the Biden-Harris administration to shut down any quote-unquote misinformation, some of which turned out to be true, about what was going on vis-a-vis COVID-19. They also were told by the FBI that they had to suppress any, quote, misinformation about that laptop that was allegedly nothing but a bunch of, Russian spoon-fed, courtesy of Giuliani, misinformation. So Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, just came out with this letter, and this is really astounding, guys. It's concerning because I know many people, myself included, actually, that were affected by this, especially when it came to the Hunter Biden laptop. I mean, that was a really, really, really big deal. But here you go. I underlined part of it. In 2020, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire. My friends over at Babylon B, they went through this, guys, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take content down. And we own our decisions, including COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction. And we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. I hope you are. I hope you are, Mark. He goes on to say, you remember that Hunter Biden laptop? Well, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation op about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 elections that fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democrat presidential nominee Joe Biden's family. We sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation. And in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. We changed our policies and processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. For instance, we no longer temporarily demote things in the U.S. while waiting for fact checkers. He goes on to say, in terms of those donations he made, he wants you to know that it was done with the best of intention. They were designed to be not partisan. They were nonpartisan, and they were supposed to be spread over urban, rural, and suburban communities, etc. But there is one big old mea culpa going on. I don't know how else you would describe that letter, but he seems to be having one of those come to Jesus moments. Just exactly why, I'm not entirely sure. And we can speculate on that. But first, I want you to hear Andrew McCarthy. He's a noted legal scholar, and he was just speaking on Fox about this very issue. I want you to hear his take.
I want to talk about another topic, this mea culpa from Mark Zuckerberg at Meta, and this letter to the Judiciary Committee. In 2021, he writes, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret we were not more outspoken about it. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. He goes on, obviously, to talk also about the Hunter Biden case and the disinformation and the squelching, if you will, of those stories on his platform. What do you make of that in the big picture?
Well, I think two things, Brett. First, it would have been nice to have Zuckerberg's testimony in connection with the case that the Supreme Court considered at the end of the term, where they basically found that the people who brought the case against the government officials who induced the tech companies to suppress the information, they said they didn't have standing to sue them. This might have been something that might have helped that. But I think the most important part of this is just to put it in context. Let's remember, the election, the suppression of those stories was in the run-up to the election, October into November of 2020. The FBI got Hunter Biden's laptop in December of 2019. They knew for almost a year at the time that they put the pressure on these tech companies to suppress the story that the laptop was authentic. So to me, I think the big story is not just the fact that you have government putting its thumb on the scale and intimidating tech companies into taking actions that government couldn't itself do directly, but the deceit here under circumstances where they knew the true facts a year before they put this pressure on the tech companies is astonishing.
It is astonishing. I mean, that is, to me, that's the whole essence of this story. We have a First Amendment. The government should not be pressuring these companies, private companies, to do this, that, and the other. Now, granted, I guess you could say, let's have some room around the margins. Maybe, government can make its position. But what about the threat? Like, why did Meta feel so strongly that it had to take these things down? And why is he now saying, gee, we regret this now? I'll tell you, it's very interesting to see this evolution in Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know if Elon is talking to him on the side or some of his other buddies, Peter Thiel, other people within the tech community that are quite concerned about the direction Kamala Harris would take us in. But here's Mark Zuckerberg talking with Bloomberg anchor Emily Chan just shortly after the whole ordeal in Butler County, Pennsylvania happened.
I've done some stuff personally in the past. I'm not planning on doing that this time. And that includes, not endorsing either of the candidates. Now, look, there's obviously a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. The historic events over the weekend. And, on a personal note, it's, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But look, it's, and I think, look, it's, at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit and that fight. And I think that's why a lot of people like the guy.
Yeah. So very different kind of tone that we're seeing out of Meta right now. It could be that they see the handwriting on the wall, right? And they see the same kind of polls that I'm looking at, that, they're not drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak. Going back to some of those, for example, Polymarket showing us, hey, this thing is neck and neck, right? There's one side that very well could win it. Or, you look at Rasmussen, you look at Fox. He's ahead in some of these. So you can sit there and pretend that he doesn't have a shot in HELL, and you can try and sort of, I guess, demotivate the other side. But I think Mark Zuckerberg knows that there's a real shot Donald Trump might be back in the White House. So you don't necessarily want to be on the wrong end of that trade, so to speak, nor would investors want him to be, by the way, on the wrong end of that trade. There's a lot of good things that could happen for that company, provided it's given the room and the opportunity to do so. But you got to shore this thing up, buddy boy, right? Like, you got to fix this, because we do have this little thing called the First Amendment, and you can't just willy-nilly go around and say, well, we don't think you're funny, Babylon B, so we're going to take you down, and we're going to take you down pretty hard and pretty fast. And that's exactly what had transpired. I want to turn to another situation, another story that's just breaking right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is responding to the news that Kamala Harris will not do the debate as such. You see, Kamala wants to change the rules in the middle of the game. The Democrats think that you can do that, right? Hey, they got one candidate, they're swapping them out for another. And this new candidate wants to have a whole new set of rules. We reported on this here yesterday. What does she want? One, she wants to make sure that she can keep her notes right in front of her. It's not committed to memory, apparently. Well, she just started running for president recently. Forget the fact she's been vice president for 3.5+ years. Anyway, Kamala wants her notes. The other thing Kamala wants to ensure is that no one's standing. They're going to sit down for the debate. You know why, I think? Because she's rather petite in comparison to Donald Trump. In other words, short in stature, and she does not want to look weak in comparison because she's a little shorty, even with the highest heels she can find. Oh, okay. And then, it's my personal view, and then there's this thing, the microphones. She wants the microphones wide open because she's hoping that Donald Trump will kind of screw up and make himself look bad. Well, Donald Trump is responding to all of this right now. Let's go to what he's saying on his own platform, which is none other than Truth Social. Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. This is really something. This is, interesting, fun times. Shall we say? Hang on, you just got to give me one moment. See, look at this. You see the New York Times article I have up there about what drives Kamala? The art of the possible. Give me a break. They just can't stop with their very, very positive spin on Kamala Harris. Anyway, he writes, I'm quoting from Truth Social, I have reached an agreement with the radical left Democrats for a debate with Comrade Kamala Harris. It will be broadcast live on ABC News, what he likes to call ABC fake news, by far the nastiest and most unfair newscaster in the business, on Tuesday, September 10th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, his reference to them being unfair or nasty, etc., stems from the fact that he's actually suing them, and he's suing George Stephanopoulos, the anchor of their signature political show on the weekend, and the one who's going to be hosting this debate. He's suing them because he is saying it was effectively libel, what they said about him related to some of the Jean Carroll stuff, etc. Anyway, he continues on writing, the rules will be the same as the last CNN debate, which seemed to work out well for everyone, except perhaps crooked Joe Biden. The debate will be stand-up, and candidates cannot bring notes or cheat sheets. Okay, so if we're to take him at his word, maybe he has reached an agreement with the Democrats, Kamala Harris, and ABC News, that they're going to stand up, so she better get those high heels out. And they're not going to have cheat sheets or notes. You're not going to be able to scribble down anything that you can reference in the middle. We have also been given assurance, he writes, by ABC, that this will be a fair and equitable debate. and that neither side will be given the questions in advance. No Donna Brazile. That's a reference to Donna slipping the questions to her candidate last time around, back in 2016. Harris would not agree to the Fox News debate on September 4th, but that date will be held open in case she changes her mind or flip-flops, as she has done on every single one of her long-held and cherished policy beliefs. A possible third debate, which would go to NBC fake news, he writes, has not been agreed to by the radical left. God bless America. So Donald Trump reaching an agreement here. It sounds like he's all for the open mics. He's willing to keep his microphone open so long as they are not seated, but standing. And so long as there's no cheat sheets. So it seems like, he gave her pretty much what she wanted. Not everything, but we'll see. Again, this is him saying that they have come to this agreement, so one can expect that this debate is going to be happening. He's had some rather choice words for her as he first reacted to the news. I mean, this was crazy, right? Because they had it all set. And why would you be changing it all in the middle of this? He was sort of surprised by this, but he shouldn't be surprised by this. I think he was a little irritated by this. In yesterday's program, we were showing you some of the choice words that he said about her. In other words, he's like, "What the heck is going on, lady?" And he called her a dummy and a few other things. And one can anticipate that may come back to bite him in the you-know-what, because apparently you can't say those things. I mean, they can say that about you, but you can't say that about them. I always find that kind of funny. And then you layer in the fact that she's a woman, and apparently you're really not supposed to say things. But I think it's important to remember what's really at stake. I was looking at some sound as we were putting together what's our short feed, the little shorts that we show you there on YouTube. And I was really struck by this particular commentator. I want to share this with you because she's a key Kamala surrogate. And this is what we are effectively up against right now, ladies and gentlemen.
We can't just worry about protecting democracy. In this moment, we've got to reimagine it with people that look and love like us at the center. And I think for us right now, it's about reimagining freedom and this American story in a way that is more revolutionary than what our founders actually put down on that little piece of paper, but instead is the type of democracy that is by and for all of the people of this country. That's the opportunity that we have.
Yeah.
Kamala went...
Donald Trump on Kamala.
Kamala went full communist. You heard that? She went full communist. She wants to destroy our country. After causing catastrophic inflation, Comrade Kamala announced that she wants to institute socialist price controls. You saw that. Never worked before. Never, ever worked. This is the Maduro plan, Venezuela. Maduro plan of like the old Soviet Union. They tried it.
Yeah. Look, they've tried it. They've tried it all over the world. It's never worked. It's never worked. And that's why actually I think this debate is kind of important, because somebody's got to push her on these economic policies. Somebody's going to push her on the border policies. Somebody's got to ask, "Hey, lady, how are you going to pay for all this?" She has no clue. I don't think she can add any of this up. And so it's a critical time in this country right now. I appreciate that you're here with me live on this program every day. So appreciate all of your support. I want to go out to some of the comments right now, and I can see them right here, pulling them up. It's good to see such a familiar team. Great to have all of you guys here. Charles in Chicago, great to see you. Ken, Richard, Dave, Pete as well. Really terrific. David, Lorenz, I haven't seen you in a while, David. Where have you been? Where have you been? Anyway, good to see you back here. Wonderful. Bruce as well. I know, I get it. You guys are not a fan of Tim Waltz. I hear you. I'm not either. Ian, great to see you as well. Peace of mind, of course, too. The whole team, we're all here. Anyway, I'm going to be back live again tomorrow. I hope to see all of you guys again. Make sure to be on the lookout. Make sure you hit the bell. Make sure you see some of the commentary we have coming your way throughout the afternoon and into tomorrow morning. I will see you right back here live tomorrow. Until then.